Everyone here dislikes Hitler.
Correct.
Everyone here dislikes
Hitler bad.
Hitler bad.
Hitler bad. Hitler bad.
Very, very bad. Okay.
Bad.
If I say Hitler wasn't a dummy, does that offend you? Does that make you think that I like Hitler?
Here's what is being put out from DeSantis trying to smear Trump.
And then 2 nights ago, I read all of Biden's security people. Can you imagine? National defense people. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it. But Hezbollah, they're very smart. And they have a national defense minister or somebody saying, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack us from the north. So the following morning they attacked. They might not have been doing it, but if you listen to this jerk, you would attack from the north because he said that's our weak spot. I'll never forget that Bibi Netanyahu let us down. That was a very terrible thing. I will say that. And so when I see sometimes the intelligence, you talk about the intelligence or you talk about some of the things that went wrong over the last week, they've got to straighten it out because they're fighting potentially a very big force. They're fighting potentially Iran.
Oh, okay. So that makes it look like he's calling out Benjamin Netanyahu during a time of war and saying that they didn't get it right and everything else. He was actually referring to what happened with Iran when they got Soleimani and fried that guy, basically saying they ended up kind of trying to take credit for it and then saying, hey, you've really got to figure this thing out because this is a very serious situation. But here's the tweet that was included with that video from DeSantis. I'll read it for you. Terrorists have murdered at least 1,200 Israelis and 22 Americans and are holding some hostage. So it is absurd that anyone, much less someone running for president, would choose now to attack our friend and ally Israel, much less praise Hezbollah. Remember that he said that. That sounds very familiar to what we're going to talk about in a minute. Praise Hezbollah terrorists is very smart. As president, I will stand with Israel and treat scum or terrorists like the scum that they are.
Before we move on here, let me ask you this, and I'll make sure that way if this gets clipped, that you have 30 seconds in either direction.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Everyone here dislikes Hitler.
Correct.
Everyone here dislikes
Hitler bad.
Hitler bad. Hitler bad.
Hitler bad.
Very, very bad. Okay.
Bad.
If I say Hitler wasn't a dummy, does that offend you? Does that make you think that I like Hitler? Hey, if I say that, for example, Putin's not a moron, does that offend you? Does that offend you? I hate Hitler. Not a fan of Putin at all. I don't understand why you're not allowed to objectively assess, by the way, your opponent. And the reason they do this is because they know that the left will jump on it. And that's what really bothers me when, like Ron, if he is the candidate, I'll vote for him for president. But they're using the playbook kind of like Chris Christie was at the debate. He's Donald Duck.
What a dork.
I'm going to call you Donald Duck. Yeah, every 70-year-old watching was like, that's funny.
Yeah.
You're going to be dead before voting. Sorry.
Yeah, I bet you behind the scenes Donald Trump was like, well, watch me use this corkscrew penis. They have corkscrew penises, and they mate for life because you can't pull them apart. Now,
I'm going to duck you till you love me.
I ain't
I'm
ducking
gonna duck
around.
you till you love me, Christy. And the left wing media goes right on to echo this, which is like, oh boy, were they ready. This is from Washington Post, I think you have. Trump faults Netanyahu, calls Hezbollah very smart amid Israel war. Politico says Netanyahu let us down, in quotes. Trump chides Israel just days after attack. And then we have another one here. Where's it from?
Haaretz.
Haaretz says, Trump slams Israel days after Hamas attacks. I'll never forget Bibi let us down.
I mean, come on, right? So here's the problem with all of that. I told you this quote from him sounds an awful lot like the left, right? It's the same playbook of the left, but they accidentally, apparently, left some very important parts of the speech out.
It's almost like this has happened before, where, for example, remember when he said, I'm not talking about the white supremacist neo-Nazis that need to be condemned, totally condemned.
Fine people
right, in Charlottesville. Remember when he said that? Yep. And then when he said, make your voices heard peacefully, patriotically, and peacefully on January 6th. They completely eliminate that. So when I see people on the right, you know what, comment below. Anyone buy the bullshit that Donald Trump hates Jews, doesn't like Israel? I mean, we'll get into, I feel like we almost don't even need to build the case here. And I'm sure that DeSantis would be a very reasonable supporter of Israel in the face of terror, just to be clear. Does anyone actually buy that on Donald Trump? That's what bothers me, is they know that it's not true, and they know the left is going to pick it up anyway. And just like they pulled things out of context, the most important context, Charlottesville, January 6th, there's some context here.
Video.
Video.
In the same speech, in fact.
Video, which means that DeSantis and his people likely would have had access to this, right?
Yes.
Let's show some context.
Under my leadership, the United States will fully support Israel defeating, dismantling, and permanently destroying the terrorist group Hamas. The state of Israel is a blessing to the world. Our prayers are with them now in this terrible, terrible time. Under my leadership, we will stand with Israel 100%, and we will not let them fail.
And let me bring you to another claim really quickly here, that Donald Trump is an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Let me read some quotes for you about how Donald Trump might be an anti-Semite. Here we go. Trump uses anti-Semitic tropes to again criticize Jewish Americans.
And by the way, these are through the time. This doesn't necessarily mean today, but it's a claim that they've made a lot.
This is what they've said about him. Trump goes full anti-Semite, unloads on American Jews in wildly bigoted rant. And another one, Donald Trump continues his long history of pushing anti-Semitic tropes. It's almost like you use the same kind of headline as the first guy. Maybe
the truth?
Original. Trump is the most pro-Israel American president in history.
By the way, before we get to clips, sorry, I hate to interrupt you, but you know how it's true?
Well, how?
All the actual neo-Nazis hated Donald Trump because of this, just to be clear. Look at people who actually hate Israel. They were furious with Donald Trump.
Yeah. They did not like him at all. And that should be the first thing that you should look for somebody who's anti-Semitic, if you piss off Nazis.
Right.
If you piss off Nazis, you're probably not an anti-Semite.
Right.
So I think that's probably a good place to start. May 2017, Donald Trump became the first president to go and pray at the Western Wall, also known as the Wailing Wall. And we have the footage. Actually, it's great that we've had that footage, but we actually have some exclusive audio of what he was saying during that prayer. So here, watch this.
Dear God, you know who it is. It's the best Christian. Even though I know him at the Jewish place, the wall that, frankly, is a great wall. I love the Jews, too. I'm a Christian, but I also like Jews. I really like their walls. I like their matzah. So, God, I'm here in Jerusalem with a lot of Jews, and you know what that means. It's getting pretty bad out here. That's what people say. It's getting really bad. It's sad. All this with the Jews, Hamas, the idiots, it's terrible. But, look, we don't talk all the time, but I have a Bible. I have a great Bible. Everyone talks about how I have the best Bible. It's laminated.
Okay, that's practical. I get it.
By the way, you help support this through Mug Club. We have an investigative journalist
with mics on him all the time.
Well, up in heaven.
Oh,
yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
we have a direct line.
So go in Mug Club to keep heaven in operation.
He's an anti-Semite. He moved the United States, right, their Israeli embassy to Jerusalem.
Yeah, to Jerusalem. And you got to read the quote again from Donald Trump because,
Today we finally acknowledge the obvious, that Jerusalem is Israel's capital.
I mean, that's pretty easy, right?
That is
kind of in their name.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is poking his finger in the chest of Hamas, just to be clear.
And other presidents have talked about this and never
done
on it. Donald Trump talked about it and then made it happen. December of 2018 as well, Trump approved the largest ever aid package to Israel. That seems like a pretty pro-Israel stance. March of 2019, Trump became the first president to recognize the Golan Heights as Israeli territory. And then also June 2019, we could go through a lot of these.
Yeah, well, he did that. And basically, as a sign of gratitude, Israel actually named an entire new city after President Trump.
הנשיא טראמפ הוא ידיד גדול מאוד של מדינתנו. מנהיג שעשה דברים שלא נעשו קודם לכן והיו צריכים לעשות בתוקף הצדק והאמת.
I always find it a little bit unsettling when I know he's speaking obviously in Hebrew, but it sounded like he said Himmler.
It really did. It's Himmler. What?
It was, by the way, it was so successful. The Israeli tourism board, they even created an ad for the newly named city.
Trump Heights! Trump Heights, it's the best, is what everybody else says.
I think he has the same slogan writer as Yo Play. It is so good. That's their
He's
slogan.
got great slogans.
It's to the point.
Yeah.
Right? Well, look,
And,
but he has some really ambitious plans for Gaza when all of this kind of.
Oh, that's right. He does. Yeah. So if it seems like we're being silly today, it's because this is silly, goofy crap for people to say, "Oh, Donald Trump is anti-Semitic."
Yeah.
For Ron DeSantis to say, "Oh, he's now actually attacking our allies and praising." Just shut. Come on. This deserves no credence. But I feel like we need to come here and give you the information that you need, because you're probably sitting there going, "All right, come on.
It's about.
I'm not buying this," but you need to be able to substantiate it. It's absurd.
Watch Louder with Crowder live Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.